this thing. Welcome, everybody. It is time again for another civil chat. My name is Brian. With me today is Brian and Brian, as always. So I guess we can call this the Brian Show. Welcome. If you've never joined us for civil chat before, welcome. I appreciate you showing up. Love having new folks here. And if this is your first time, the way this works is we will answer your questions. You put questions into the Q&A panel, and we will do our best to answer them. There's nothing off limits, as long as it's appropriate for a show called Civil Chat that's talking about Autodesk software. Now, if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A panel. It's much easier for us to manage all of the questions if it's at the Q&A panel. The webinar chat is fantastic for chatting around, making fun of people. I know nobody ever makes fun of me, so I'm not sure what that feels like. But you're welcome to post things up in the chat as well. I got some folks showing us where they're from. Nice. So we got somebody from Illinois, Virginia, Burkina Faso. Nice. The Pacific Northwest, planet Earth. It's appropriate. Charlotte, North Carolina, and Southern Wisconsin. Excellent. I'm in Colorado. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that on Civil Chat before, but I'm in northern Colorado, right there along the Rockies. I like to think of people that live in northern Colorado as being descendants of chickens. As the settlers moved across the plains, they saw the Rocky Mountains and said, I'm not going over there. I'm staying right here. And that's how the Front Range of Colorado got settled.
No, I guess I'm right there with you because I know my grandparents came from Oklahoma, so they saw the mountains and whoa, no, that's
right. Yeah, if you've never been to the Front Range of Colorado, it's really interesting as you head east across eastern Colorado. And I always like to joke that the only thing worse than western Kansas is eastern Colorado. It's just like nothing, and then all of a sudden mountains. It's wild.
So I just got back from Calgary, etc., and going up to Banff exactly the same way. You come out of the Rocky Mountains and flat, and then another 2-hour drive, and you're in this total weird environment, similar to here, where it's now like all these plains and caverns, and it's really bizarre. And that's where all the dinosaurs are found. I learned.
Yeah, that's wild. Love it. Okay, so I always like to start off showing something in Civil 3D before we get started, while we're waiting for the flood of questions to come into the Q&A panel. Hint, hint. Again, if you don't put in questions, there's nothing for us to talk about. So please put questions into the Q&A panel. But just to kind of talk about a little bit, I thought what we would talk about today is smoothing. So I've heard lots of people, they're like, ooh, I hate those jagged contours that Civil 3D creates. I want to smooth the contours, make them look more realistic, maybe more realistic of what's really out there. So what we're going to talk about is different ways of smoothing when you're working with surfaces. And the first option is to smooth the contours. Now, the way you smooth the contour, so what I'm talking about is you can see all these very harsh angle points on these contours. I'm sharing my screen, right, Brian?
You are.
Okay, awesome. Right, and what we want to do is we want to kind of ease this up a bit. So I'm going to stay zoomed in here like this on this surface. Ooh, this might actually be a really good spot to demo. I'm going to move that off the screen for now. We'll come back to that. All right, and I'm going to go edit the surface style. So in the surface style, on the contours tab, we have the option for contour smoothing. Right now, the surface is not the contours are not being smoothed. If you notice, I corrected myself from saying surface to contours. So we are smoothing the contours. Keep that in mind.
I was going to ask that question when you were saying, hey, we're going to smooth the contours. And I noticed you kept saying that. So I was curious, like, is it going to smooth the surface, or is this going just cleaning up the contours?
So it's very distinct difference here. And I'll explain what the difference is. So I'm going to change this from false to true. I'm simply going to hit OK. And you can see these contours are now much smoother. All right, if I go back into the style, right, you'll notice that there's a contour smoothing down here at the bottom. So if I bump this all the way up to the top, they're now even smoother. And what this has done, this has smoothed the display of the contours. This is not to smooth the surface. This is smooth the display of the contours. And you can run into situations where contours actually end up crossing each other based off of the smoothing. which is what I think might happen down here. Oh, that was close.
No, go
Oh,
right,
right there.
yeah.
Boom. See, it's crossing, the contours are crossing each other. And the reason is we didn't smooth the surface, we smoothed the display of the contours to make it
So correct
look
me if I'm
better.
wrong, but didn't it basically just say, hey, I'm going to take a polyline and convert it to a spline? I mean, that's basically what it looks like it did.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah. And that smoothing factor deals with like how severely it's splined. I don't know if it's exactly that, but it's that concept, right? Let me go back into the surface style. And what you'll notice under the contour smoothing is there's actually two different options. One is add vertices and the other is spline curve. All right, so right now it's set to add vertices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and extract all these contours as polylines so we can see what the difference is between the add vertices and the spline curves. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select the surface. We'll go extract from objects. And we're going to extract all the major and the minor contours. And so now you can see we've got polylines on top of the contours. And let's just go ahead and change the display of all of these to, I don't know, let's choose red, just so we can see them better. And we'll send them to the back of the draw order. All right, so they're still there. The surface is displaying on top of them. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that smoothing type from add vertices to spline curve. So go back into the surface style. And I'll change that contour smoothing from add vertices to spline curve. And what you'll notice is this contour smoothing option is no longer an option. It's not available for spline curve. And when I hit OK, you can notice the huge difference that we see between add vertices and wait, there's like no difference here. If there was a difference, I should see all those red polylines that are underneath those contours, but they're not showing up. So as far as I can tell, there is no difference between add vertices and spline curves. The only difference that I've found, right, so let me go ahead and go back into my style, is that when this is set to spline curve, you don't get the option to change the smoothing factor.
Now, I have a question. Before you change it from add vertices to spline curve, you went and did the increase decrease. Does that affect the spline?
It does.
Ah.
You just can't change it when it's set to spline curve.
So if you go back and change it to add vertices and did decrease.
Right. So if I set it to say halfway, right, you'll see all those red contours under there because they're now different. But let me go ahead and do that same thing again. I'll go ahead and erase all those polylines that I've drawn.
But if you were to do spline now, it's going to use that new value.
Exactly. That's what I was going to show. And we can we'll go ahead and extract all those. Extract from surface, extract objects. And again, we'll go ahead and make all those red. And we'll send those to the back. All right, and now if I edit the style and change that back from add vertices back to spline curve and hit OK, again, it doesn't change. I have absolutely no clue why those two options exist. And why is the spline is there even as an option? I don't know. There is zero difference between them. I even went so far as to extract the contours using one method, extract the contours with the other method, and do a map clean on top of them, and it deleted exactly half the objects I created because they were all exactly duplicate. There is no difference. If anybody knows of a difference, please, I would love to know what the difference is.
So my question is that like an old thing where they originally did it and automatically just had the add vertices, and then somebody came back and said, I wanted splines. They didn't want to remove the old stuff, so you get both options?
Could be. but here's the fun part. If I go into the help file for this, we go down to the contour smoothing. Add vertices. Add vertices along the contours. This option supplements points on the contours when smoothing them, giving them a more noticeably curved appearance while maintaining the highest level of integrity relative to the surface. Spline curve. Passes a spline curve through the contour points. This option creates the smoothest contour representation. No, it doesn't. It creates the exact same contour representation as add vertices.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Robert asked to follow up. If you extract contours, when it's set up as add vertices versus spline, do you get a polyline or a spline?
Get exactly the same thing.
Okay. So even when you extract, it doesn't matter. Like, hey, I'm extracting polyline versus spline.
So you can see it's set to spline curve right now. And if I go ahead and, again, let me go ahead and get rid of all those ones that I had created, and we'll extract again. Actually, let me do this. I'm just going to take those. That's why I drew these circles in here. I'm just going to move them from the center here to the center over there. And that way it's just I just moved them over. All right. But if it's set, I'm pretty sure it's set. Did I change it to spline? Yeah, it's set to spline curve. And now when I extract, I still just get polylines. And if I copy these, if I just move these, I'll just move again from the center to the center. So all the copies are right on top of each other. And I do the map clean. Go ahead and select those. And the only thing I'm going to do is the delete duplicates with a tolerance of 0. So in order for them to be considered duplicate, they have to be exactly the same. So you can see 304 objects were selected. So half of that would be 152. So if it deletes 152 objects, we know they were all exactly the same. Did it do it?
I think you copied
deleted objects.
Oh, yeah.
152.
So funny.
And you can see it deleted some of the red lines and some of the other lines. So it doesn't, but yeah, I don't know what the difference is.
Brian,
so if you ever have somebody say, oh, you should be using this one instead, you can just say bullshit.
Why? You can say why?
Yeah. Explain to me show me what the difference is, and then maybe I'll use it.
And Brian said he loves this idea, but he runs into performance issues when the polylines have too many vertices.
Yeah, for the smooth contours. Yeah. Okay, so that's smoothing the contours. Now, actually, let me show something here real quick. I'm gonna edit the style and set this back to the maxed out smoothness that we can possibly get for this. Set that back to add vertices. We'll bump that up all the way. And here's one of the issues you might run into when you're dealing with it. So what I need to do is I need to put in a spot elevation label here. So I'm going to grab the surface, add labels, spot elevation, and I'm simply going to snap to this contour. And what you can see, this contour is passing over a spot that is at elevation 61.95. This label is labeling the elevation of the surface. The contour has been edited so it looks smoother. It did not smooth the surface. In essence, what has happened here is we have changed the display of the contour relative to the surface in order to make them look pretty. We did not change the surface, right? So when you're dealing with a surface and your contours, what's more important? Is it more important that your contours look pretty, or is it more important that your contours show you really what's happening with the surface? So, and one's not always right, one's not always wrong.
Yeah, I was about to say, so you're saying appearance versus accuracy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, I've got my own opinions on that one.
Yeah. So as an engineer, when I'm working with the surface, I want the contours to give me a glimpse into what the surface is actually doing. Right? I actually want to see the roughness to it. I want to see it gives me a glimpse into the surface. However, if I was going to take this and print it out on a foam core board, stick it on an easel and put it up in front of city council, maybe in that situation, the pretty contours are more important.
So basically, you're saying always smooth the contours before you give it to an architect. As the guy who works with the
Yeah,
architects.
yeah,
I'm just
basically,
saying.
yeah, spline the crap out of it if you're going to give it to an architect. Yeah, I'm in agreement with a lot of individuals. I like the accuracy, jagged. We've got engineers that call them nervous contours because, they jag it around a little bit. But
Right.
I'm like, there's ways to smooth your surface without sacrificing
Exactly.
accuracy. Yeah,
So I'm going to turn off the contour smoothing here.
thank
Right, we
God.
get back to those, what you call them, nervous contours.
Yeah, nervous contours.
And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to smooth the surface. So what this will do, this will edit the surface and make this and change the surface itself. All right, so this is an edit. So I'm going to select my surface, edit surface, and there it is, smooth surface. It's also available under your tool space if you want to go that route as well. All right. The method I'm going to use is the natural neighbor interpolation. The reason I'm going to do this is because this is the one I know how to demo. The kriging is something I've never used. I think it has to deal with like if you have multiple surfaces. So if you have like the existing ground surface, then underneath that you have another layer, but you only have very few points, it'll try to smooth it relative to another surface. If I could be completely off on that, but I think it has something to do with that. So I'm gonna leave this set to the natural neighbor interpolation. My output location, I'm gonna do grid-based. My output region, so which part of the surface do you want to smooth? So if you're smoothing contours, it's all or nothing. With this, I can say, hey, I want to smooth this part of the surface, right? Because maybe I've got a street that's going next to a park. Well, the surveyor went out and took shots on the park, and now I got these very pointy hills. Well, I want to smooth those hills out, but I still want to maintain the angle points on the street. So I'm just going to pick a small little region here. So I'm going to do a polygon, so O for polygon. And I'm interested in, say, for example, this area here. It's because I'm doing a grid based, it's kind of asking for the grid. So I'm going to do, I don't know, 5 by 5. I actually have never done this for this particular surface. So I don't know if this is good or not. So you can see it's going to be adding 352 points, which isn't a whole lot. So I'm going to drop this down to 1 by 1, which is going to add another almost 9,000 points to the surface. So you can see we're actually changing the surface. So I'll go ahead and select OK here, and you can see it smoothed the surface rather than just smoothing the contours. So if I were to put a spot elevation on here and snap to this contour, you can see it's exactly that elevation. So what has this done to the surface? Well, in that area that I did the smoothing, so if I go back into my surface style, and you shouldn't do this, you should switch to a different style, but just for this, I'm going to just turn on the triangles. You can see it's added a grid of points in this area. So rather than doing a direct interpolation or linear interpolation between points, it interpolates it differently. However, it still does keep all the original points. So if you had a feature line, or rather a break line or a point in the surface, it maintains those elevations, but it just changed how it goes from one known elevation to another elevation. It goes over and up and then over, and it smooths it out. So hopefully that helps folks understand what the difference is between contour smoothing and surface smoothing, and why I was really confused when I was trying to figure out what the difference between add vertices and spline curves was in the contour smoothing. So
yeah, and Tom also says be careful because it can smooth in places you might not want, such as long as a wall or curve or face. And that comment came up when you were doing contours. Yeah, and John Mayo came out and said, yeah, definitely does not match your tin surface if you're just contour smoothing.
Yep.
Now, if somebody needs to smooth, make it look pretty, send it off to an architect, and then come back to what they had originally, how would you do that, Brian? So can you go backwards from here?
From what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, because with us that like the jaggedy of it, if we're still doing modifications and we need to go back and modify a surface that it's already been smoothed, do you just undo the edit?
Right. So in my opinion, the smoothing the surface, like what we're seeing here, is a valid change to the surface. Like I said, we've got a park and they shot a point on the top of a hill, and now I've got a very pointy hill. This turns it into a smoother hill, right? The smoothing contours, if you want to get rid of that, you just change the style. But here, this is a surface edit. So if I go into my surface properties and I go to my definition, you can see it just added it as an edit to the definition of the surface. So if I want to, I could just uncheck this, hit OK, rebuild the surface, and it goes back the way it was.
Yeah.
Want to turn it back on, I can toggle that back on, hit OK, and it's back on.
Yeah.
If I need to add additional data in this area, all right, back in the surface properties, you would just make sure that the smooth surface is below all that data. And you can use the arrows on the side here to reorder them. Is that kind of what you were alluding to, Brian?
I was leading the question because I knew that maybe individuals out there that didn't realize that once you do this edit, it's almost like a boundary as well. You will have to refresh, reset it, or you can remove it to further your design and then re-add it after, or it's not something that's irreparable.
Right. Good call.
And Adam says he wants to use I keep reading it as cringing because you're cringing. You didn't want to do it.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Cringe.
Cringing method. And it worked really well to smooth across an empty space so that I could approximate what was outside the available data. I wouldn't use it very far, but in my case, I only needed about 15 to 20 more feet of the softball field.
Oh, so interesting. So the kriging method actually took it out beyond the limit of the surface.
That's how it sounded to me.
Okay, interesting. Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of my intro little discussion. That went a little bit longer than I normally go on this, but I find this to be fascinating.
So I like the fact that you can just toggle it on and off too. So like literally, like if you have an architect saying, I really want this to be smoothed out, but it adds too many points for you, you could just toggle it on and off before you export it for the export to AutoCAD for the architects.
Right.
All righty, so we'll jump into some questions. Should we get on that very first question that came up?
I think we should. I think we've left John waiting long enough.
So John came up with a question, and Brian and I actually talked about this before we went live. So for those of you who are going to Autodesk University, you might have noticed when you logged in, there is no registering for classes that are not labs or roundtables. All of the sessions are now, you can just look at them and there's no registering. So in years past, Autodesk University, you register for the class and they would only let registered attendees in. They've gotten rid of that this year because they started to realize that about 25% of the people who registered for classes weren't showing up. And then all these people are waiting in the hallway. And for Brian and myself, who've been presenters, then like 2 minutes before you're supposed to start, they start letting all those other people in to fill up the space. Personally, for me, it's never bothered me, but I know some speakers have talked about it. So this year, it's a first come, first serve. However, I don't think what they're letting people know is as presenters, you're going to get put into the size of room based on the people who, is it favorite it, bookmark it, whatever the hell it's called in the registration. If you don't do that, they don't know what size of room to put that speaker in. So for those of you who are going, make sure you do go bookmark, favorite, whatever it is in the registration, those sessions, so that they understand, hey, I've got a lot of people registered for this. We need to put them in a bigger room. Or even potentially repeat the class.
Yeah, and that's one thing I didn't realize that was going on. When I first heard about this, I was like, oh, this is going to be a shit show. You're just going to have people lining up outside of those popular classes, and the classroom's going to be way too small, and everybody's going to be upset. But if everybody that's going can actually do that, hey, I want to go to this class, then it might not be that bad.
Yeah, and in one of the speaker webinars, they did say that they're basing the class sizes off of that. And if you do it online now, it should show up in the app when the app is released, which the app is not usually released until about 2 weeks before AU. So yes, make sure you go in, bookmark, favorite, whatever you're doing for those classes. So that way everybody gets to attend and not just the first 10 people in the tiny classroom they stuck you in.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they're making that clear enough for all the people out there who are actually registering. I think it needs to be really big and bold. They need more instruction because half the speakers keep asking that question. I'm like, Did you not listen to the webinar? The 3
And
webinars they talked about it on?
yeah, and the nice thing is when you bookmark it, it does put it in your calendar as something that you wanted. So in a couple of cases, I've got four faves in the exact same time slot, so I get a choice.
Yeah, and kind of way I look at that too is if it, since it is first come, if I walk up and they're somewhat near each other, unfortunately for me, when I have 2 favorites, one's on that end and the other one's a mile and a half later on the other end of the conference center. But if they're close enough, you could be like, wow, there's already a line of a lot of people in there. Maybe I'll go choose the other one.
Right.
Yeah, good thing it wasn't in the venue as what was it last year? The one where it was like seriously almost a half a mile to walk. That
Yeah.
was in Tennessee. No, where was that? I can't remember where that was at.
San Diego.
San Diego.
That was last year.
Oh,
and then 2 years
the
before
one
that
in
was
Nashville was just as bad for me too. Yeah, Nashville was just as bad for me. It was like I just gave up going to
we haven't
classes
been
in
to
Nashville.
yet.
Yeah, or
You
New
talking
Orleans.
about New Orleans?
Yeah, the New Orleans
No,
one. It was so
yeah,
bad. It was
that
just
was-
like, yeah, I don't even want to deal with the crowds walking. Yeah, I just stopped going to
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll hang out in the exhibit hall. I went to the ID8 booth, hung out there, and just chilled there and talked to people. It was like that was much more enjoyable.
Yep.
So Robert's asking, is AU worth going to for if you're a civil person?
Say that
I
again.
think so. There's a lot of really good sessions there for sure. I've gone every year since I've been doing this, and I've enjoyed it fully. I've learned so much. It gives you a glimpse into what other people are doing.
Yes. And honestly, I mean, yeah, AI is going to be the buzzword this year again. It's going to be big, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of civil stuff. Heck, we just came about an individual within our company that had a great idea for AI because he's having to take an old grading plan off of PDF and convert it to a surface. And it'd be great if AI could come through and just identify the spot elevations and place that in for you automatically, right?
Oh, that's a great use of AI.
Right? Yeah.
I never even thought about that, but that's huge.
Yeah.
Being
I
able
was
to
just like this morning.
upload a set of plans and say, hey, get all the contours out of here and the spot elevations and create a surface for me.
Exactly. That is a task for an AI, aka intern. But yeah.
So yeah, and so some people are responding saying, "Hey, I was underwhelmed by the Civil 3D specific classes this year." I think the biggest thing that I've always learned at AU, especially my very first one, is I thought I was going to come back with all this knowledge, and I realized I actually came back with affirmation of I'm not stupid.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a
doing it
good
properly.
point as
Hey,
well.
I actually kind of know what I'm doing. This is pretty cool. I mean, you're always going to come out with a tip or 2 or 3, whatever, but it's more of a, yeah, I'm still on the right track. Nobody's doing some crazy stuff that I'd never thought of.
Yeah,
Or they're doing
affirmation is
crazy
really
stuff.
important too. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the very first time I went, I thought I was going to come back with all this knowledge. And I'm like, wow, I already knew 90% of what I was told. There was that 10% that was nice to learn, but also made me realize I wasn't just some,
Yeah.
imposter saying I knew what I was talking about.
And the key is to try to take something away from every single class because the methodologies in which which each individual is utilizing within their own company or workspace is going to be vastly different. You just want to take the good from what you're viewing and try to apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a good point, Tom. Your employers are coming in and saying, oh, gee, you should be coming back and learning so much. It costs me so much money to send you there. But always make sure you come back with a few things. And then as what's Tom followed up to Greg's is, yeah, make sure that the network connections are truly what I think is invaluable. That's why I said when the walks are long and I'm being lazy, I'm like, no, I'm going to sit in the exhibit hall and try to talk to people and go up to people. And I will butt in if I hear people talking and say, hey, sorry, I was listening in on your conversation just to try to meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the connections, the network connections you get are great part of the AU side.
And heck, you might even meet a spouse there.
You might even meet someone that you end up marrying there. Who knows? I mean, it is possible.
That's a little scary.
For those who don't know, I met my wife at Autodesk University. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that is a big deal and do it. So I always think it's worth it. I also think for the people who work at it, it's a nice little perk for busting your ass doing what you do as a job. It's, you're still learning, but it's a nice little perk to go there and just get away from the daily grind. So for
Yeah,
me,
for
yeah,
sure.
I think it's always a good thing.
And if you haven't been before and you're going this year, if you see one of us, come up and talk to us. I mean, we're just people. I love talking to people at AU. When I go to AU, it's like I finally get back to my people,
Yeah.
right? It's just I just fit in so well there. I go to other conferences and I'm like, man, these aren't my people. But when I go to AU, I'm like, I'm home because
That's funny.
we talk the
Greg
same
brought up the
language.
point that, of course, everybody thinks you're going to learn so much because I put university in the branding. Autodesk has been trying to get rid of that for like 3 years, and they keep trying to come up with what do you think? Like they were literally going to call it the Autodesk, what was it, the Make University or the Autodesk Make was what it was going to be called at one point in time. It's like, okay, are we baking cakes? What are we making? Am I making paper airplanes? Like,
Right.
yeah, I've been on a few of those things of, hey, here's what we're thinking for new branding. And I'm like, oh my God, I do agree, Greg, university kind of makes it sound like they're gonna come back and educate it. They didn't like my response because the last few years, in my opinion, it's been all Autodesk marketing. So I told them they need to call it the Autodesk Marketing Conference, but they didn't like that idea. Yes, annual therapy class. Just go and hang out with people, and yes,
Yeah,
like Brian said, go find like people, like-minded people,
yeah. And
and
don't
then
be
manage them.
afraid to talk to people. If you're an introvert, these people have the same passions as y'all do. So just go talk to people.
All right, so let's jump into another question.
Okay.
So Kevin asked the question, is there a good way to share custom assemblies within an organization? I created an assembly catalog like the menu tutorial showed. I saved it as an ATC file in Network Drive, and when we attempt to add that catalog, we get an error that the AutoCAD cannot find the catalog on the C drive. We can see the assemblies, but not add them to a drawing.
Yeah, so you can add them to a catalog and then add them to a tool palette. But I think recently what I've been doing is just been adding them to the drawing directly. So just have a network drive location or someplace in your CAD support if you do the robocopy to each person's computer with those custom assemblies in it. And then when I need them, I can come over here to the prospector tab, assemblies, sorry, sub-assemblies, and I can import to drawings, right? And then I can browse for that PKT file directly here. So I don't have to add it to a catalog. I don't have to add it to a tool palette. I can just import it directly into the drawing itself. And it is linked to the original. So if I go, where did I put those? Here. If I just bring in a subassembly here, I don't know how well this subassembly is. And then I can attach it to a subassembly, or I can just insert it as a detached subassembly, and you can just bring it in directly, right? And there is the subassembly. And so you don't need to do all that other stuff any longer. You can just organize them in a folder and say, here they are. Anybody else doing it differently? So, okay. But that's the way I would recommend it, Kevin.
All right, and Brian asked a question about corridor transitions. I'm trying to model a parallel parking lot that occurs along a standard residential road section. I have tried with both corridor transition for the widening, and I've also tried with an offset alignment. I haven't had perfect results with either. How would you go about it? I don't like using a ton of regions because the surface often has small break at the edges of regions. I really like the transition methods, but it doesn't remain perpendicular to the curb since my assembly is usually based on the center of the road section. The offset assembly works okay, but similar problem with region edges. I'm sure there are various ways to go about this, but I'd love your thoughts and best practices.
Okay. So let's see if I can, let's see. Let me open up a drawing here. Let's see if this drawing works. All right, so I have my alignment. Let me make sure it has a does have a profile. Good. And I'm going to go ahead and create an offset profile for this. Or I'm sorry, an offset alignment. Sure, why not? And then we'll go ahead and add a little something here. Pull that back in. Something like that. I'm just doing this real quick and dirty, just so we have something in here. And so I assume it's something along these lines, right? Where you got your center line. Let me get rid of some of these labels that we don't need. You have your center line and then an offset with these transitions. And then you want the curb and gutter to follow along this offset, but you want it to be perpendicular to that offset. Does that sound right, Brian? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, are you asking me or are you asking the other Brian?
I was asking the question, the original question asker.
He's
Brian.
asking the other Brian. He's asking the Brian.
Not asking those two Brians. I'm asking that
Oh
Brian.
God, we need another Brian.
So what I would do is I would create. Well, let me just go do this real quick. So let me go create an assembly. All right, and this will be lane. And then to this, we will go here, bring up my tool palettes, and we'll do just add a lane in here. And basically what I would do is I'd have this lane target this alignment, right? And so let me go ahead and do that. Home corridor, create corridor. The alignment will be this alignment. I chose the wrong profile. The layout profile, and then the assembly will be the only assembly I have. All right, and so you can see it's going along, but then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to target this offset. So we'll edit the targets for that lane, offset. We'll target this. Voila. Now, what you might be tempted to do is then create a profile for this alignment and then attach the curb and gutter and the sidewalk and anything else that you want to this alignment. The problem is you want this to be dynamic to the corridor. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to grab the corridor and I'm going to extract a feature line. It's up here somewhere. Feature lines from corridors. All right, I'll grab there. So let's see. I'm not interested in the sub or the pave 2 or the pave 1 or the ETW. I just want this here. I'm going to extract that. And I now have a feature line that's running along here. And then I can create a new assembly that is the curb and sidewalk and everything else. All right, and then we will attach my curve to that, and then add that feature line as a base to the corridor. So go back into the corridor properties, parameters, we will add a baseline and it will be a feature line. So we'll select the feature line, I'll select that feature line there. And then we will add that curb assembly. Now this isn't perfect. Did I do that? No, that's right. Right. And so now you can see we've got our curb and gutter, and it's always going to be perpendicular to that feature line. So it's going to be relative to that. The drawback to this is the sections don't necessarily line up. So as you can see, we have a little section here, a section here that's not in the curb and gutter, that's not in the lane. So that's one of the drawbacks of doing it this way. But in most cases, that really shouldn't matter. So this is the approach I would take, Brian. So what do you think? Oh, you put a comment in there. Based off picture line that's built from the same corridor, seems like a circular reference. It's not a circular reference, though, because the curb assembly is attached to the feature line that is created from the baseline that is created from the alignment and profile. So it's one direction. It never goes back on itself, right? If I were to say, hey, let's create a feature line from this, and then extract that and create a feature line from this, which then references back to it, then it would be circular. But this is just one direction in this case.
And what if you need your parking to drain out to the road?
So basically it's like, hey, I need a low point here that's a little bit lower than what it would normally be based just off of the curb and gutter, that sort of thing.
Or if you're needing it to tilt back towards the center line of the road.
Yeah. So remember
that the road flow line.
Yeah. So the road is following the profile of the alignment, and this feature line is 2% or whatever this slope is off of that. So it's going to be sloping away. But if I need this to differ from this, then you might be able to use a transition on the lane. So I can say, hey, I'm going to transition from a 2% slope down to a 3% slope, and then back up to a 2% slope, and then just go 2% either way from there. Or you can extract this feature line and not make it dynamic. No, you would still want to make it dynamic.
Well, so Brian, yeah. What he really, if I'm understanding him properly, Mr. Jacobs is actually wanting the parking to flow to a pan that would represent the flow line of the original flow of the road. So that way it would continue the flow of the road through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess Brian is saying that I am in his head, kind of scary. So you basically you wouldn't have that bump out anymore. You would want to save that bump out, but you would at that point you would want to create a new region, just one region with an additional piece that goes out, going up at 2% or whatever your slope is, attaching out to the parked area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this area would just be the same way we've done it before. This area would be the same way, and everything. Honestly, anything outside of this feature line, this curb would still be the same as before.
Still be applicable.
Would it be?
Well, what you would do is you could put a lane and a curb to it, and then the lane would go to 0 whenever it would go back to,
Oh, good call.
Yep. The parking area would go back to 0. So you would actually have a lane length and a curb attached to that. And then the lane length would just rubber band back and forth.
Yep. Good call. So basically what Brian is saying is we would copy this. So I'll just copy this assembly or the sub-assembly right onto itself. So this would be the normal lane. And then this would be the lane coming up from. So instead of come on.
Yeah, you're going to put a positive 2%. Yeah.
Positive 2% on there like that. And where you don't want the pan, this is basically an offset of 0 relative to this point here.
Yep.
Good call, Brian. I like that. See, I knew there was a reason we kept you around.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, other than just making fun of.
So are you guys talking about transitioning the second lane sub to 0?
Absolutely. Yep. It'll rubber band back and forth. And actually, you don't have to set the transition. The alignment itself, when you target the alignment, it'll bring it back to 0 for you.
Right.
So assuming
the offset is the lane width, which I didn't do in this example.
Exactly. Yeah. And 0 dimension does not cause an error. No, because you're not dividing by 0. The moment you divide by 0, then you get a problem.
So I think what Robert put in the chat, does 0 dimension no longer cause an error? It still causes an error in some places. So for example, this curve.
Yes, I'm sorry. Right? 0, yeah, when you add you tell it to go to a width of 0, you betcha.
Yeah, in some cases. Other cases, it's fine. But I think what Brian was referring to is an offset width of 0. But just
Yes,
to
I'm
kind of
sorry.
touch on what Robert was talking about here, if I go into my subassembly properties,
Yeah,
I think this is right, and go to my parameters,
yeah,
right? We have all these different parameters. And sometimes if you set these to 0, I think,
yeah,
let's try dimension B. If I set that to a 0,
yeah. It kind
you
of,
can see
yep,
it just
yeah,
messes things up nasty. So what I've always told people is never use a value of 0 in a
yeah,
subassembly. I always set it to something really, really ridiculously small,
yeah.
but that's not necessarily true.
But that's what, yeah,
Um,
John mentioned put 0.0001. I go out to 3 decimal places because that normally my stuff's out to 2 decimal places when I'm labeling. So if you go out to the third, but
right. But if you go into the help for the subassembly, some of these will tell you that you can't do it. So for example, dimension A here has to be a numeric positive non-zero number. So any of
uh,
these that say non-zero, you can't put a 0 in. Anything that doesn't say that, you should be able to, but I think I actually used B in this example, didn't I? Didn't, if I set B, yeah, I did set B to 0 and it still failed. So I guess that's not a foolproof method. So just don't use 0 in subassemblies.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah, Mr. Jacob is saying that, yeah, this looks like it's going to be great. He's going to give it a try.
awesome. Good to hear, Jake.
Paraphrase.
Good to hear, Brian.
All right.
I almost called him
Tom
Jacob.
Richardson asks, what is your recommendation for a company's custom pressure pipe catalog when creating a deployment for a new version of the software? Do you use a shared folder and link all versions of the same content, or you create a copy of the current content into a subfolder of the new deployment files? Recreate the catalogs from out of the box content or something else?
So the way we do it, if I go into our CAD support folder here.
That's a very open-ended question. That is highly customizable.
Yeah. And, I played around with doing it as 2 different methods. So if I come under CAD support here, under common, we have ENU, which for those of you that, if you've ever seen the ENU folder when you're browsing through the Autodesk folders, does anybody know what ENU stands for?
English.
Put it in the chat if you know.
Oh.
Be interesting to see what people say. Right? So I'm going to come into ENU and then pressure pipes catalogs, and this is where you can keep your catalogs, right? And this is great because it's independent of version, so you can just continue to use the same one over and over and over again. The other option is you can see we have year versions for Civil 3D 2025 and Civil 3D 2026. So if I come under Civil 3D 2026, we have ENU, and then you can keep it under here. So for 26, we're not doing that, but for 25, we did. So you can see we have the pipes catalogs and the pressure catalogs. So this is the way we were doing it. In 2026, I'm planning on switching it so it's everybody's pointing the same version for each year. So I'm not sure which is the best approach, but those are kind of the 2 options. A third option is if you've got a pressure pipe catalog that is specific to a project, you would need to put that like in the project folder. A lot of people had guesses on the ENU. You got the E right. It is English, but it's English unlocked. So it's for the unlocked version of CAD back in the days when you had a locked version and an unlocked version. That's my understanding. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I understand.
If that's the case, it's funny because they followed that through in Revit where we've never had a locked versus unlocked version.
Yeah.
We have ENG for English and ENU for English US.
Okay. Maybe it is English US then. Maybe I could be wrong. You never know.
Or that
don't
was
just
the old
believe
version
everything
and
I
they
tell
just
you.
kept it and nobody knows why it was called that because people at Autodesk turn over all the time.
Awesome.
All right. Sean asks, could you show that AutoCAD can convert a PDF into a CAD file? I've never had any luck with conversion, especially with fonts recreation.
So it depends upon the CAD file. So if the CAD file was created using a vector-based software such as Civil 3D file or MicroStation, it should be pretty straightforward to bring it in. So let's see.
Yeah. So kind of, I've never had luck, Sean, doing a PDF conversion that was like a scan to PDF. If the PDF was created from a piece of software, it usually
Yeah.
does better.
Yes.
Yeah, scanning's not going to do it. So if we attach a
That's your
PDF,
vector versus raster PDF, and yeah, that's doesn't ever work.
where did I put that?
Well, it's
Under help.
not that it won't work. It has to do with the fact that whenever it's brought in from an image, it changes the line work from a vector to a raster. So AutoCAD is now trying to take the raster and connect things together. And if you've got a dash line, all it's going to see is the line work that's the dash. So it's going to make each individual dash its own bit of line. But if it was a vector PDF, then it would have known that that was a line with a line type.
Right.
Because that data is stored inside of the PDF.
Right. So I just extract in a PDF, select it, import as objects. I'll just do this region here. And I will keep it. And now we have the stuff in the drawing. Not going to be perfect. Did I move the PDF too? I did, didn't I? Oh, yeah. Try that again. There we go. So it did a pretty good job of it. But again, this particular PDF was created from CAD. So it's a good example. If it's a raster file, then you need to convert it to an image and then bring it in through raster design, and then you can use the contour following and assign it. Yeah, that's why AI would be fantastic for that.
Right.
Tom,
And it looks like I was wrong. It looks like it is English United States.
yeah, and Tom actually put it up there. It's a very interesting link he has in there. It's like it basically switches some of the terminology. Like I'm probably sure the spelling of color is different, CLOUR versus CLOR, right? But I'm sure there's probably a few minor things like that. But also then his little links that talked about terminology. Oh, yeah. So like in this one, the terminology for this in Britain is this, and in the US it's this. So very interesting article.
That's cool. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. And this is one of the things I love about Civil Chat. I love finding out that I'm wrong about something. So I appreciate it, Tom. And the reason I love finding out that I'm wrong about something, because then I can stop being wrong about it. So that's awesome.
All right. So the next question from Max. Have either of you done anything with custom structures for Gravity networks?
Other than adding new size parameters to them, I haven't. Have you, Brian?
Nope, that's all I've done is just added size parameters. We did not get into that, mainly because we're waiting on Autodesk. What I'm really wanting is I'm wanting to get into Inventor and create a multi spot for my structure so that way the pipes don't automatically just snap to the center of my structure, because I got diversion structures that I have multiple pipes that need to come into. So when are they going to adopt what Revit has, and you can actually place where your pipes need to come into the structures in the Gravity systems?
Right. But if you have a 3-foot box and you need it to be a 3.5-foot box or something along those lines, you can go into Part Builder, right click on one of these. One of these? Oh. There it is. Right click on the size parameters and then edit values, and then go find that parameter that you want to add the sizes to. So maybe I'm not sure which one if this is going to be good or not. And then you can come up here. So some of these are calculated. There we go. We'll edit the SID. Not sure what SID is. The inner structure diameter. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. So I want to be able to add a new diameter. So the available options. So you can just come up here and choose edit. It'll list all those available options, and you can just add in a new size. So that's what I've done. My recommendation is if you need a custom part built in Part Builder for your organization and you think you will benefit from that custom part built in Part Builder for your organization, hire somebody to do it for you, and I will not be the one you will hire.
Amen, brother.
I do not like Part Builder.
Nope.
I've spent way too much time in here and I despise it, and no thanks.
Agreed.
Yeah, so Jason keeps saying the only way to truly do this is inventor plus infrastructure parts is the total way to do it. Try and
Yeah.
use Part Builder natively, not fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll try to leave that as untouched as possible. So that way, when I'm going through and updating to new versions, migrating it forward is not as difficult. Again, I will preach that this is symbology that's on your plan set. You need something that greater detail, create a detail. Don't,
I'm right there with you, Brian.
yeah,
For sure.
it's one of those things. Know the limitations of your program before you try to go in and make it do everything, because you will you'll love yourself later.
Yeah. And that's one thing I always try to get into, especially people that are new to modeling in 3D. It's like, you don't need to model everything
Yeah.
perfectly. We do not need to show the bolts on the lid to the manhole to secure it in place.
Or the herringbone of your catch basin lid. Please
Right.
save
And
yourself.
we don't need to do that.
No.
That's what the
At 20
detail
scale,
is
it's just
for.
at 20 scale, it's just this blot of goo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and John sent the link in for getting an understanding from AU 2014. So look in the chat for that link. But yeah, a lot of stuff's going inside of here. And one of the people said, yeah, Inventor is not part of your thing, but you can do a 30-day trial of Inventor to try to get some of these parts created and see if you can get through it that way.
You can also buy the Flex tokens.
Yeah, I was going to say you also can. They used to be able to do it on a month-by-month basis, but you can also just go off of Flex tokens, as Haley said. So basically, you check it out for a day, use it for a day, and X amount of tokens per day, depending on the piece of software. So
yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left before we hit the bottom of the hour. So Carrie asked, any AU sessions geared toward Civil 3D that you're all excited about?
I haven't actually looked at the catalog yet.
I'm going to tell you there was not a single Civil 3D session that I was excited about. Carrie, you might be new to this. I'm the Revit guy. Brian and I worked together 20 years ago. We started doing Civil Chat. I do Revit Radio after this. It's a different webcast. So yeah, we still continue doing this. So yes, I don't know anything about Civil. That's why I'm always interested to be here and learn. So 90% of what Brian says and you guys ask is way over my head.
And that brings a great point to Max. Do you have any good resources for learning basic Revit? Revit Radio. Go attend Revit Radio and ask Mr. Mackey here questions about it. So, and then somebody in the chat asked me about the cartoon behind my desk. Let's see if we can. I don't know how far this will reach. I don't know if you'll be able to read that or not.
It's the square wheel versus round wheel because we've always done it that way.
Yeah, the guy's showing. They're pulling the cart with the square wheels. The guy has the round wheel, and the other guy says, "No, thanks. We are too busy." So it's a classic.
Yeah, I always see the one saying, "No, thanks. We've always done it this way," which is even worse.
I saw a great quote that said, "If the only reason you're doing something is because you've always done it that way, then you're doing it wrong."
Yep, then you're doing it wrong.
That's one of my favorite quotes. My other favorite quote is, "The only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training your employees and having them stay."
Uh-huh.
So get your employees trained.
Yep. I like that. That's a good one.
But Max, I did put in the chat the link to register for Revit Radio, which is always 30 minutes after this one. So I go shove food in my face in the next 30 minutes, and then I do Revit Radio.
And you will notice that I'm not there because I'm not invited.
There's the link. Anyone and everyone is invited. Hey, Haley, when did we start doing this? Wasn't it like 2006?
Oh gosh.
Somebody asked me the other day how long you've been doing it. I'm like, well, I started at CAD 1 in 2004.
So it was a few years after we've been at CAD 1 before we started doing that.
I did Revit Radio pretty early. It might have even been before you came on, and then you came on. It's like, why am I not doing Civil Chat?
Yeah.
And then
that's what it was. You were doing Revit Radio, and then we decided to do something for Civil too.
Yeah.
That's when we started Civil Chat.
And then Warren did like map something or other.
That lasted what, 1 or 2 sessions?
Yeah, and then he stopped. He did like map mayhem or something.
That's mayhem. I like it.
There you go. And Jason even figured out the token cost for running Inventor. It's 8 tokens a day.
And I think tokens typically run about $3 a token. So it'd be $24 a token, or $24 a day to run Inventor. Which, if you only need to run it a few times, is the way to go.
No, Max, Revit Radio does not talk about Inventor. I know how to double click the icon to open up Inventor, and that is about it. I know there are some export to Revit buttons in Inventor because I have taken those classes at AU to see what it can do, but that's about all I know about Inventor.
No. All right. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour.
Yep.
So it looks like we answered all the questions. I don't know, Brian Tomasi, did you take a look at the AU catalog yet? Are you excited about any Civil 3D courses?
Honestly, ever since I attended the one class called Three Sheets to the Wind, I've kind of been tainted at AU because that individual had nothing but disdain for Sheet Set Manager, and for them to allow somebody to teach a class like that was very unorthodox to my eyes.
Wow.
Now, to answer your question, I'm always excited to go. Was there anything that was leading me to go? I'm wanting to really see what others out there are doing with the program, because, again, like you guys had already stated, it gives me a great benchmark to make sure that what I'm doing is correct, or I'm basically snickering to myself going, oh my God, they're still doing it that way, and we're so much more efficient. This is awesome. I did put in to teach, was not, because I'm really big on ACC right now and everything in the cloud. And I got to tell you, it has saved our company so much time and effort back and forth than traditional servers, or even project-wise, because of the costs, the lack of cost, should I say, and its adaptability with Autodesk. So I was going to try to teach that. I'm excited to go to a few of those classes where they're showing and showcasing it.
Yeah. I'm going to be attending a lot of the ACC stuff as well, for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Which Brian are you speaking to there, Tom?
He spelled it with a Y, so it's got to be the crazy guy.
Yeah, it's got to be. I attempt to sit in on those. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. If you wanted to go through and review everything we did here, I will be posting this up on my YouTube channel. So look forward to that. And we will see you again next month. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll be there. So Brian, you're going, right?
Yep, I'll be at AU for sure.
Sweet. All right. We're hooking up.
Absolutely.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye.